Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spoonful podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Mario Dio, joined as always by my good friend who loves the IRS, Emmett Watkins Jr.
I'm just not gonna give context to any of that. You know what? In my defense, I'm specifically talking about Will Ferrell's character in Stranger Than Fiction. That's
Mm,
the only IRS I fuck with. Just
there you
him
go.
working there.
I dig it. I like that. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Today I am actually. Here's the thing. I haven't tweeted about this. I haven't said anything. I haven't even said anything to you about this. But I would like to start off the show by calling attention to what I'm wearing. And I don't know.
I
Yeah,
was
we
gonna
already
point
know.
it out. I was gonna point it out. Yes.
Exactly. For people listening to the show and not watching the show, you don't necessarily have to watch, but
You
understand that
better
I am
watch.
wearing. You can watch if you want to. I'm not gonna force you. Enjoy it the way you enjoy it. But I'm rocking a comedy button shirt today. My sole piece of comedy button merch.
R.I.P.
I still kind of wish I bought that I threw up in church shirt that they made like several years ago.
Yeah.
This is a
yeah.
very funny concept.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the Comedy Button, it's a podcast that's been going on for a very, very, very long time, well over a decade. I
Yeah,
think
dude.
closer to 15 years. And
Even
yeah,
longer
this
if you
last
if you
episode,
count like the GameSpy debriefings, right? Like that's like
true.
if you
It's like
count,
close
because
to
they
20.
did that for like 3-4 years before they switched over to comedy buttons. So Jesus,
Yeah. Yeah,
long
you're
time.
getting close to 20 years. It's like maybe 18 or so. Yeah, very long running podcast. I was a fan. I listened to it a lot growing up. And honestly, to keep it real with you, even more than kind of funny and all that stuff, Comedy Button is probably the more direct connection to get me involved in all this shit on the internet.
Yeah, dude.
Because I remember it like it was yesterday. I went to MomoCon for the first time in 2015, and I went there specifically to see the kind of funny folks. It was the first year they were a thing. But I also met my friend Andy Seitz. He just saw me in the crowd and was like, "Hey, are you in the Comedy Button Facebook group?" And just recognized me from that Facebook group because I post a lot in there. And sure enough, he linked up with me. We became friends, and then a couple months later, he's like, "Hey, I know we just met a couple months ago. Want to come to Texas and we do RTX together?" And then that led to me going to all these things. That led to Kind of Funny Prom. That led to a million things. And now here we are on Spoonful with another person I met through one of those trips. And yeah, Comedy Button has a very special place in my heart, not just
Yeah.
because of the experiences it would eventually lead me into, but I was a big fan of the show for a very long time, listened to a lot of episodes. And if going to be completely fair, I haven't had that much time to slot in into my regular podcast in the last like year or two, but I'm a longtime fan, and the fact that it is ending is a little bit bittersweet, but also totally understandable. They have made quite the legacy on that show. So yeah, good stuff all around.
No, for sure. It's a great shout out. And when I saw your shirt, I thought of doing the same thing. Yeah. I mean, same for me, dude. I've been listening to the comedy button. I mean, for the last few years, it hasn't been as regularly, granted, just like you said, but super long time fan of the comedy button, man. I back when I did my show, You're Awesome, Here's Why. I did episodes about Brian. I did an episode about Max, and in those episodes, I talked about how the comedy button specifically was a show that really helped me go through some shitty times in my life where I worked my very first job and I was getting overworked and underpaid and just basically abused, right? And the one thing that I was able to bargain with my bosses, because I was like a dishwasher busboy sort of deal. The one thing that I was able to bargain was let me have like an earpod, like a what's it called, a earbud. Sorry, let me have my
Yeah.
earbuds and listen to stuff. And they're like, sure, whatever. Um, and so what I started doing, what got me through those days, because I would try to listen to like the kind of funny morning show, right? Every morning, I would listen to it live, and a lot of the connections that I made with kind of funny people was during that, right? I would like send in the tips back in the day when you could send a tip and get read. Shout out to those days. Um, but once I would run out of current shows to listen to, at some point I decided, because I had already been listening to the comedy button, that I was going to start from episode one. So I would listen to like 8 hours of comedy button a day for a solid little bit, and it's legitimately the only thing that got me through those days. And I told that story on Brian's episode of Your Awesome Here's Why, and he reached out. From that is where I had a little bit of a internet connection to Brian, right? I think he follows me on Twitter, and we've interacted here and there. But yeah, dude, I feel you. Comedy Button's such a great show, such a big part of my life for such a long time. It's even when I stopped listening to it regularly, anytime that my mental health was not in a great spot and I needed something to cheer me up, I would always pop in the Comedy Button, even if I hadn't listened to a single episode for like a year and a half. I knew that if I popped in the Comedy Button, I would feel better. And yeah, dude, it sucks. I also random one. I got in a car accident once listening to the Comedy Button, and I I
Is this
remember
your I threw up in church story?
basically I remember like the accident, the airbags went off, a whole thing, and then these fucking idiots are talking in the background, and it's loud as hell, and they're talking about whatever the fuck they're talking about. And like this is one of the worst things that could be playing in the background while I'm in the middle of like, holy shit, what just happened?
Just Brian's Italian accent is the
Yeah,
key
doing some
to
shit talking
destroying
about
your
pussy
car.
or whatever the fuck he's talking about. Oh man, good times. Shout
Oh
out to the
boy.
Comedy Button.
Yeah, shout out indeed. So yeah, just wanted to show a little bit of I don't know if respecting your elders is the word I want to use. They're not that much older than
Oh
us, but
man,
at the
totally
same
dissing
time,
them.
they not just like half of them are fathers or whatever. Like
That's true.
it is
Funny,
it is
actually,
what it is.
funny story about that length of time where I was like going back at the old episodes. There was this running bit where Scott kept getting laid off from jobs. Right? He like for a while he just poor guy couldn't fucking keep a job. Like he was just having so much bad luck. And it was like a running bit, right? It was a running joke that Scott never keeps a job, whatever. He's gonna get fired again. And
How can I afford pizza whistles?
right, right. And you know that I think Greg has talked about it a lot on Kind of Funny, where sometimes, if somebody tweets something at you, it kind of might take you a little bit to realize that they're trying to joke with you. And obviously Twitter is a hellscape, so something that I might type with good intentions might not lead with might not look like it. And one time on Twitter, and this is super stupid of me that I did this because I
Oh
was
Lord, I know where
referencing
this is going.
I was referencing like a joke from like 7 years ago. So I have no idea why in my brain I thought this was a good idea. And there was
Mm.
something about like I don't remember exactly what it was, but some sort of thing about an award for something, right? And I made such a silly joke about like how Scott Bromley, he already worked at Star Wars by now. And I was like, we know Scott is not going to do it because he can't keep a job. It was something like that, right?
Yeah.
Something super stupid that in my mind I'm like, I'm in on the bit, but it's a 7-year-old bit. And Scott replied, he's like, what? Like obviously upset because he's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck's wrong with you, man? And I was like, oh,
Snap
damn.
back into reality.
My bad. My bad. Listening to the old shows kind of took the running gag. I'm sorry. So it's all good. But
Yeah, it's all good.
don't be
Yeah, you
stupid.
just reminded me. I used to watch Revision 3 back when that was a thing.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in that podcast video feed. Yeah, I used to watch all that shit because they were connected to source feed and all that shit. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm watching source fed, and now that's dead too. Everything on the internet I ever loved leaves at some point,
Nice.
unless you own it and it's not owned by Discovery or some shit. So,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
hallelujah. But yeah,
Yeah.
good
Shout
to
out to
see
the
that
comedy
they're
button.
yeah they're reaching a culmination point, and now it is a piece of history. They've definitely cemented something big for themselves, and yeah, on to bigger, greener pastures, onto new ventures, all that good stuff. So very happy for them. They did a great job.
Happy for them too. One day, hopefully, we can say the same about Spoonful. If you didn't know, this is a Spoonful podcast. It goes live every other Tuesday on YouTube.com /at Spoonful Vids. The ad always fucking throws me off. Follow us on Twitter at Spoonful Vids. I am a Mario Not Bros. Emmett is at EJ Sponge61. Today, Emmett, you brought up a topic that I enjoy quite a bit, and I know that we're gonna have some similarities on, but there's a lot of, I think, probably the single medium, other than maybe books, but I think even books might be easier to tackle, where for video games, oftentimes, if you're not in the circle for a specific franchise, and if you don't have a history, a personal connection to that franchise, it can be super tough and super intimidating to jump into something. And that's kind of what we want to talk about. Those franchises that we like kind of want to get into, but or they're just too overwhelming. That's it. Franchises that are just too much for us right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of franchises like that. And
Yeah,
I will open the conversation by not even talking about the conversation because I'm going to
sick,
give you some hope and then take it away as soon as I give it to you.
sick. I like it.
We finally started Near Automata anime. We
Nice,
finally started, everybody. We finally
nice.
started. We watched 1
5 minutes
episode.
in. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Hey, for a minute there, it was just 5 minutes, but then
I
she came
bet.
over again and we actually finished the episode.
Nice.
Um, I'll say this on the first episode, it was like, oh, this is cool. But even I agreed when she said this, but she said, hey, this is cool and all. I think I'm gonna like this story more if I'm actually playing it.
Oh yeah, I
I think
agree.
it's a lot more engaging if you're not just sitting there watching it. Because there's some downtime in the anime that would have been canceled out by the fact that you're doing all the stylish action
I agree.
combat, you're sorting out your chips. So
I
yeah,
think
she considered
unlike The Last of Us, right? Where like The Last of Us is really great if you know and love the game. There's so much there for you, but it's just as good if you have if you didn't even know that it was a video game, right? I think the Nier anime is more enjoyable if you're a fan of the game in the way that you know
Mhm.
when certain music cues play, that's a cool moment. When certain scenes are like directly taken from the game, it's a cool moment. Whereas I'm watching it with Jimena and she's never played the game, so she's fucking lost as to what's happening, right?
Yeah, certainly. Ooh, nice sneeze, nice stealth mute. I like that.
I'm proud of
Listeners
that
have no
one
clue what
too.
happened.
That was good.
Listeners didn't know until I said something. So there you
Yeah,
go.
come on, man.
Behind the scenes.
Don't throw me under the bus.
It's less a bus, more like a very small size mid sedan.
Don't throw me under the spoon.
I can make an inappropriate joke about that, but I will not. Yeah, that's definitely the case. I am probably maybe we'll watch another episode of it. I'm not entirely sure, but it seems like I might just like. Ooh, here's the thing. Here's another thing that I realize. I can't talk about things that I can't talk about stuff on this show as if she's not listening because she does listen. I don't
Hi,
know if you
Gabby.
saw that she followed the Twitter
I
account.
did see that.
Um, yeah, she followed Twitter account and then like she before we were even like a thing, she was listening to these shows to like do intel.
Oh damn! Oh shit!
Yeah,
That put
she was.
I feel scared now. I feel like I got pressure on me now. Oh
It's
man.
no pressure for you. It's more pressure for me.
Yeah,
But
she's like,
like,
fuck that guy.
not necessarily fuck that guy,
I
but
know,
just
I
like
know.
I'm
Just kidding.
here for half of the show. But
Fair,
yeah, it
understandable.
that shocked me. So yeah, she listens. Long story short, so I can't say things that I might be doing for her, but she does have a birthday in a couple weeks. So
Ah,
mm, that's all I'm gonna say. Um, but yeah, so yeah, we'll see if we're gonna continue to Nier anime or not. But Nier's definitely, if I didn't already play Nier Automata, that would definitely be one of those franchises where it's like, oh no, I can't. I have to beat the game 5 times.
yeah,
No.
dude. Nier was
Yeah.
one of those games for me where for forever, and I've talked about it on the show. I had a lot of people that I know, you included, Sam at Little Arcanine on Twitter, was a ton of people telling me like you got to play Nier, you got to get on Nier. Obviously, Bless has been talking about Nier for a while too, and I tend to agree with Blessing video game wise a lot. Like I think out of all the people in Kind of Funny, Blessing is probably Blessing and Andy are the two that their tastes are the most similar to mine. So, when Blessing says that he loves Nier as much as he does, I tend to listen to it a lot. But it had come from so many places. I finally ended up getting it because I think it was like on sale. No, actually, I just remembered. Shout out to Moss Man, the homie. I was talking
Oh
about it.
yeah.
He also kept telling me to play Nier, and one day out of nowhere, he's like, "Fuck you, play Nier. Here's the game," and he bought the game for me. So shout out to
Gotta
it.
love
Became
that.
it became one of my favorite games ever. So I'm like, all right, well, Thanks, Moss. But shout out to Moss for that
Shout
one.
out
I forgot about
yeah,
that.
shout out to Mossman because I also did a very similar thing. Copies of Titanfall 2 on Newegg at one point were like $7. And I was like, "Fuck this! I'm buying like 7 copies and sending them to all my friends." I think I was about to go to a trip and like meet up with a bunch of people. I think I was going back to RTX for a second time or something like that. So
Yeah,
I brought all these copies and said, "You have one, you have one, you have one." Everyone's getting a souvenir copy of Titanfall 2 from me. So yeah, I understand the vibes, Mossman. Good
100%,
on you.
100%.
So yeah, Nier's definitely one of those. Even now, as a big fan of Nier Automata, one of my favorite games of all time, Nier Replicant is still one of those games where I enjoy it enough, but it's not hitting the same emotional beats as Nier Automata. I was gonna say the original game, but that's the sequel to the remake, blah blah
It's
blah.
a mess. It's
Um,
all a mess.
exactly. It is. It's just it's a cornucopia of whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I tried playing through Nier Replicant and I beat it, but it's one of those games where it's like, oh, you got to beat it multiple times to see the extra endings, blah 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 blah. And I'm right on the precipice of I have to play through it one more time and I have to collect all the weapons in the game and then beat the game again just to get that last extra ending. And the game's not different enough from playthrough to playthrough for that to be feasible for me.
Mm,
Where Nier Automata, yes, you're playing through the same story twice, but that third playthrough is a sequel,
yeah.
and the fourth one isn't even a full playthrough. You just like get to the end, chapter select, and then choose a different ending, and then there you go. So it kind of there's a lot more shortcuts where Near Replicant is like, oh, I just have to like start this all over again, and
God,
yeah,
how
you can start
fucking
from half.
cool how fucking
Yeah.
cool is it when you hit replay on Nier for the second time, so you're jumping into your third playthrough,
Mhm.
and then a totally different cutscene plays, and you're like, "What the fuck? How fucking cool is
Yeah.
that?" And then the title screen comes on. Oh, I
For
forgot
the
about
first
that.
time in the entire fucking
Oh
game.
my god, dude.
Oh,
After you beat the game twice is when the title screen comes up and the music. Oh, it's what a fucking game, dude. What a fucking game.
oh man. Nier Automata, one of the goats.
Oh,
I'm thinking about this. I've always said that Insomniac was my favorite developer. The more I think about it, like Nier Automata is in my top 10. By the end of the day, not an actual literal day, but pretty soon, Bayonetta's probably in my top 10 as well.
mm,
Platinum is up there for me, man. I gotta play some more of their stuff. I'm playing some Clover Studio stuff. I'm playing like God Hand and whatnot. So yeah, fucking Platinum. They kill it every time. Even though it's more of a Yoko Taro joint, but they're responsible for that gameplay I love
yeah,
so
yeah,
much.
yeah, we got him. We
Um,
got him.
indeed.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
have Near Replicant installed on my
mhm.
PlayStation, and it's one of those where I'm like, when the time hits, I'll be on that.
Yeah, it is not a bad game. It is a good game, but it's not Platinum Combat. It's like a kind of whatever not implementation, what's the word? Imitation of Platinum Combat. So, it's good for like I can take it for a couple hours, but not for 4 or 5 playthroughs
Yeah,
worth of it.
fair.
Just doesn't have the depth like that. But yeah, when it comes to franchises that are intimidating in this way that we're talking about, franchises that it's like, ooh, I'd love to, but I don't know if I'm ready for that commitment. There's a lot of games that fall into that. The biggest one that I've been thinking about recently because Like a Dragon Inshin just came out, and Yakuza is one of those franchises where I'm like, it seems so up my alley. It's literally like,
Yeah.
oh, RPGs. It's like, what if you took RPG like Pokemon, but instead of these turn-based battles, it's melee combat. I love melee combat clearly, so I should love that. But for whatever reason, when you say, "Oh, there's 8 games to play through," I'm like, I might be all right.
Yeah,
So yeah,
here's the thing. I have Yakuza Like a Dragon installed, right? Not Like a Dragon Nation. It's confusing because now they changed it to be just Like a Dragon because that's the name in
yeah.
Japan. So now it's
Well,
not the Yakuza franchise anymore. It's the Like a Dragon franchise. Anyway,
well, they did the Resident Evil 7 thing where they called it Resident Evil 7
yeah,
Biohazard.
exactly. So it was
So
Yakuza Like a Dragon, but after that, they're no longer Yakuza games. They're only Like a Dragon games. It's a little confusing. Anyway, I I had this tweet and I had to find it because this perfectly exemplifies how I feel about the Yakuza games. Because when Yakuza Like a Dragon came out, a ton of people were saying it was great. I heard a lot of people saying that it's a really good jumping on point. It's a different character. There's some things you'll miss, but the story is mostly its own thing. The combat is different, right? They turned it to turn based, but people were speaking super highly of that game, and it's on Game Pass. So I'm like, great, I'll install it on my PC. I'll play it at some point. And then I started hearing more and more people be like, no, you got to play all the games and whatever. And people being like, if you don't, the first 4 games, they're all 65 hours each. And the first 3
Exactly.
kind of suck, but there's. So my tweet is people will be like, if you're interested in the Yakuza series, don't start with Like a Dragon. It's a decent entry point, but it's better if you play 16 games before that. All of them are 60 hours long, and 3 of them are old and feel like shit, but there's a very important turtle in there that you have to meet. That's what people sound like. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna play, because here's the thing. If the Yakuza games were like 10 hours, 15, 20, even 20, and I play one of them and I'm into it, I could be like, all right, I'm gonna play the other ones.
It's
They're
like a
all
week in the game.
they're all like 70 hours long.
Yeah, they're all massive open world RPGs.
Yeah,
Like, I just
dude.
don't have that in me.
And there's like 9 of them? It's fucking insane. It's something like that.
Alright, so it's 1 through 6 is the main
But there's
trilogy,
also
0 is the
0.
prequel, and then 7 is the Ichiban one, and so that's 8 already, 9 with Ishin just coming out. So yeah, 9.
And then are the
Unless you
judge
wanna
I think the judgment games are somewhat connected. Dude.
they're I think they're not connected. I think it's the same type of game, like, it's the same formula, but new characters, new world,
Yeah.
new everything.
I
I
think
think
there's
it's
like
very
shout
lightly
outs and
connected.
like cameos and stuff, but nothing beyond that.
Exactly. So
But
I think it's
it's a
oh,
lot.
well, if you do wanna include stuff that's actually Yakuza, you got Dead Souls on the PS3,
Oh my
the
god.
zombie one,
Oh my
which no
god.
one cares about, no one needs to play, but you have that one, and then there's also a PSP exclusive one that only came out in Japan. So that's 10 if you really wanna get technical. But 8 for a mainline franchise, and 8 it hasn't even been that long. It's been
Yeah,
8
dude.
games since, like, end of PlayStation 2 generation, and then all of PS3 they made a bunch, and then all of PS4 they made a bunch,
And
and
also
now
from
here we
from
are.
what I've heard, like yeah, the story is really good, but from what I understand, the gameplay in like 4 of those is exactly the same, and like the
Oh,
world
yeah.
basically doesn't change for like 4 of them.
Literally, I from what I understand, you have the 2 PS2 games, which are Yakuza 1 and 2. 0 is a complete like just a new game. It's just a
Yeah.
new prequel. So that kind of takes place in the I think like Yakuza 6 slash world. So Yakuza 6 and Yakuza 0 are pretty similar.
My
But
god.
then Yakuza 3, 4, and 5 are all the same game. Like not literally, but like
But
play
basically.
very similarly, similar world, maybe new writing, new characters, new story, but you're doing the same stuff in each of those games, and that is like the perfect burnout point to like
Yeah,
I'm
dude.
tired because
It's
they're just all
like
PS3 games.
yeah, it's ridiculous to tell somebody that you have to put like 250 hours into very similar games so you can appreciate a character in Like a Dragon better. It's like, all right, man. I don't got fuck the character. I'm good.
Yeah, my philosophy is in the same way where this wasn't always my philosophy. Wow, my I just realized my hair is all fucked up from this headset. I look like Miss Frizzle. Good
Oh, good.
lord. Oh
I
my
look like a
god.
mess too. We're
Um
in it together.
no, you look handsome though. You got like the little streaks of color,
I don't
and
know.
my shit is just the shape. The shape is the only thing I got going for the hair right
Okay.
now.
All
There's no
right.
color or anything in it.
All right.
In any case, I'll probably have different hair next month anyway. Um, in any case, fuck, what was I talking about? Oh, my philosophy is recently I've come across the feeling, vibe, whatever you want to call it. I think I might be the type of person who doesn't mind spoilers because oftentimes a spoiler will be the hook to get me in.
I'm the same way.
Like, yeah, I wasn't always that way. I used to be super like, I don't want to know nothing because the experience of finding out is part of it. Now I forget the spoiler by the time I get to it. I just know I'm excited, and then the feeling still hits me in the same way.
Totally.
So when it comes to Yakuza, let me just play the one that's most interesting to me, and then if shit pops off, and I'm curious of like, I wonder what the lore is for this turtle. I can go back and check out
Oh,
the
the
other
turtle
games.
was the main character in 3.3. Oh, I get it.
The turtle was at this crane game. And that's another thing about the Yakuza franchise that they always talk about where the story itself is, dozens and dozens of hours, but then they want you to go explore Tokyo, do karaoke, eat ramen, go to not a strip club, but like one of the little lady things where they have dinner with you. I don't understand Japanese culture like
The
that.
little
I'm
lady
gonna be honest.
things. Yes. Who could
Folks know
forget?
what I mean.
Who could
Yeah,
forget?
there's a lot of mini games and side activities. So it's like if you really want to explore these games to the fullest extent, you're getting close to 100 hours per game,
Yeah,
and
dude.
that's just unreasonable.
And listen, more power to you if that's what you're doing. And I know people who love the Yakuza games, you're super passionate about it. I I am just bothered by the people who like tell other people to not play Like a Dragon first and play 8 other 100-hour games. It's like you have to understand. I'm sure that there's stuff that's worth it, but you gotta understand that that is extremely overwhelming. And I think the people behind Yakuza get it, and that's why Like a Dragon is a departure, and it has a different character, and it has a different gameplay style. Because I think they get that not everybody's going to be down to put 500 hours into other games just to understand and play this new one. So that's why I think you also see the change, right? I think the franchise being called Like a Dragon now is probably a little intentional, to like separate themselves and not make people feel super overwhelmed. I Yakuza is a game franchise that's overwhelming for me, but I have Like a Dragon installed. Again, it's on Game Pass, and it's a game that I want to get to because everything I've seen looks cool as hell. It looks ridiculous. The combat looks fun. People tell me the story's
Mhm.
incredible. I'm not gonna play the
Same.
other ones, man. I'm just not.
Yeah. At this point, I don't know if Like a Dragon, uh, the eighth game, or actually no, that's the seventh game. I forget because zero. Yeah, I'm interested in playing that one, but at the same time, even though their version of turn-based combat looks a lot more active and therefore more to my taste, I still think I'm going to, if I'm going to play a Yakuza game, I'm probably just going to start with zero. Yes, it might play old, it might be a little janky, but like
Yeah.
hey, I bought Wanted Dead this week. Like, I bought the collector's edition of Wanted Dead. You think I have a problem with jank? Nah, I'm
You live
probably
in the
fine.
jank.
I live in the jank. I was born by it, molded by it.
Hmm, hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think I'm gonna try out Yakuza. I actually have had Yakuza Zero on Steam for a long time, and it is deck verified. And I was curious, okay, it's deck verified, but how well does it run actually? And I haven't ran the game, but I played the demo for Ishin this week, and the demo for Ishin ran at 60 frames locked, no issues.
Mm.
And that's supposed to be a slightly more upgraded version of the engine compared to Yakuza Zero. So like Yakuza Zero is probably gonna just run smoothly on deck. So perhaps that'll be one of my games to play during my trip next month when I'm going to PAX and WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've made too many promises for games I'm gonna play during that time. I'm like, oh, I want to get Dreamcast emulation running so I can finally play through Dynamite Cop. And then also Metroid Prime came out, so I'm like, I kind of want to do that because I'm bringing the Switch. So I don't know. We got a lot to figure out, but in any case, yeah, that's one. Another one that really, really scares me when it comes to like getting intimidated because on paper, this is a crossover franchise. And by me saying that, you probably already know what it is, but I am totally down. I should have so much interest in half of this franchise. The other half I don't care about that much, but not to the degree where it ruins the other half I am interested in. But it's so convoluted and so it's probably not even that many games, but it's just so much stuff to keep in your mind if you want to keep up with the narrative where it's too intimidating. And I got too many people in my life that love these games, but it's gonna break their heart. And I know she's listening because we just said she was. Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, dude.
It's terrifying.
I was alluding
It's
to
very
it when I
scary.
said something about 3.3. It's scary, dude. It's just like the names, the point fives, the it's just so the fact that DS games apparently are very important, right? Like hold a lot of important canon and shit. It's it's scary. And like
Mhm.
literally on Game Pass, there's the bundle that has Kingdom Hearts 1 through 3 or whatever, or like it has like
Yeah,
all the
the all in one
mainline
package.
games, right? It's all in there. And that's one of those that I always look at and I'm like, damn, maybe, I don't know. It sounds cool, right? I agree with you. I like, I it combines Disney, which I like. I'm not like a crazy Disney person, but I like Disney. Disney's cool.
Yeah,
With
same
Final
here.
Fantasy, which I'm gonna talk about in a little bit. Put a pin on that.
Ooh. Okay, Final Fantasy's different, so yeah, we'll get there.
Put a pin on it, because
For sure.
some of these stories are like games that I just never gonna play, and some of these are success stories. I have a couple success stories,
Mm,
but yeah,
I got
it's one
weird
of
now.
those that on paper I could see myself playing it. I remember playing it at like a friend's house and when they had a PS2 because I didn't have a PS2 growing up, but they did, and I remember playing it and being like, "This is cool. I want to keep playing this game." And then I'm in my 20s, and it's like people are talking about how 1.5 HD remix has the best ending, and I'm like, "What the fuck? What?"
You could choose endings in Kingdom Hearts. I didn't know that.
Wild.
That might be something
You
different.
might not be able to, honestly. I made that up. I don't know. Probably. I don't
Fair
fucking
enough,
know.
fair enough. The whole point is we haven't played these games.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm right there with you. I'll do you one worse. Instead of seeing it on the Game Pass screen all the time and being like, maybe one day. At one point, it was cheap enough. They
Oh my
have a
god.
bundle on PSN. It was Kingdom Hearts 3, the remakes, the remaster of 1, the remaster of 2, and like all of the Nintendo DS cutscenes. Like not the games remade, just the
The
cutscenes so you know
cutscenes.
what the fuck is going on.
Nice.
So like all those DS games, all that was in a bundle on PSN. Normally $100. I think it went on sale for like 40, maybe 30.
It's
And
a
I
good
said, "You
deal.
know what? Great deal." I said, "Fuck it, let's go." Bought all of it. That was like 6 years ago. Haven't touched it. Haven't
Nice.
touched it at all.
Good.
And it's absolutely the thing we're talking about. It's just so intimidating. And really the thing that's getting me is like I see the Toy Story world and I see like the Pixar stuff is really what
Really
resonates with
cool.
me. Yeah, very, very cool stuff. And all that stuff is hidden way, way in Kingdom Hearts 3. So it's like, in order to get to Kingdom Hearts 3, a game that it's not like Yakuza where it's like, oh, this is a great jumping off point. I'm gonna just jump in here and ooh, new
No.
characters. It's just
Uh-uh.
no. Everything's mired in the depths of lore.
I'm
And
gonna
it's like I have to dig through it.
this might get ire from the Kingdom Hearts fans, but like you gotta get it.
Oh
You
God.
gotta understand what I'm about to
Don't
say.
cancel us. Don't cancel us. Don't
It's
cancel me.
it's so hard for me to take these games seriously sometimes when I see what the fuck they're talking about. Dude, like I'm an anime person. I play my fair share of like weird games. What the fuck are these games going on about sometimes, man?
Yeah.
Like I'll see somebody because I know a ton of people who are huge Kingdom Hearts fan. Cam Hawkins, I know we both know. He's a huge Kingdom Hearts guy. Like one of the
Shout out
biggest
Cam.
Kingdom Hearts fans you'll
Gonna
fucking
see
meet
him
in
at
your
PAX, I
life.
hope.
There you go. And he'll post a screenshot or I'll see him retweet or talk about a screenshot of like, this moment hits so hard. And it's just fucking nonsense, man. I
It's
don't
just goth Mickey.
it's just like what? It's Goth Mickey talking about like he's not a real heart because he doesn't have a soul, so he's a empty. And it's like, what are you
You're
talking
talking
about?
about you're talking about the clip with Woody where he's like, "Stand back, I got this. You
I
don't
love
have any
that meme.
friends."
I love that meme. I love the hold up, let him cook meme. That's one
Yeah.
of my favorite memes.
I love that shit so much. It's just an inherently goofy ass franchise. Like you
It's
can't take that
nuts. Yeah.
I think even the fans understand that you can't take it absolutely seriously because at some point it's fucking anime
Yeah.
goofy.
Isn't
Like
Mickey
that's
like
ridiculous.
God or some shit? Like
Mickey's like the king of like the
fuck
key
yeah.
world or some shit.
But
He's
like
like a massive thing.
yeah, and he like has powers and like I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
he's
he's
like their Yoda or some shit. He's like
yeah,
their Jedi.
fucking
Like,
nuts.
it is. It's insane, but I also that is also part of the reason why I still look at it every now and then because 'cause I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh, yeah, this is too much.
this
This is too
sounds
much," but,
fun.
like, it's so ridiculous. It's like the tongue's in the cheek, and I'm like, I'm kinda liking that vibe,"
Mhm.
but it's just, ooh, in order to be fully in tune with that vibe, it takes 200 hours of games and lore.
Yeah. It's
Like,
it's
I gotta
it's
watch a YouTube
intimidating,
explainer.
man. That's just the it's like I don't know if I got it in me.
Very
And
nervous.
like when Kingdom Hearts 4 got announced and people were theorizing all the new worlds and like, oh, one of the world is gonna be the real world. All of it, like it sounds goofy, but I'm like, I'm excited for you guys. It sounds cool, whatever the fuck they're doing. But
What the fuck's the real world in Kingdom Hearts? Taco
listen,
Bell ads?
Sora
I don't know.
suddenly has like he's like a normal dude with like normal sneakers all of a sudden, so I don't fucking know. Listen, man.
Sora has to pay taxes now.
Yeah. The IRS world goes fucking
Yeah.
crazy.
There you go. Will Ferrell's come after you, Sora. Good God.
Keeping up
Um,
with that. Keeping
mhm.
up with that. Unless you have something else to say about
Oh
Kingdom
no,
Hearts.
please continue.
Keep
I've Kingdom Hearted out.
continuing the Kingdom Hearts thing. Final Fantasy was one of those franchises for me for a long
Mhm.
time that I looked at and I said, "You guys have your fun, man. Like you guys enjoy it." I remember when before Final Fantasy Remake was a thing, when the number one game that anybody and everybody wanted was Final Fantasy VII Remake. You would see it all over the internet. It was like a meme at some point that everybody was begging for it. And then there was that one PlayStation E3 conference where they announced Final Fantasy VII Remastered. And if you'll remember, the thing that was really funny about it, this is before Remake was even announced. The thing that was really funny about it is
Mhm.
that they show something about Final Fantasy VII, and the crowd starts fucking going crazy. I don't remember what E3 this was. It
Just
starts
like sobbing.
starts going fucking crazy, and then they say remaster, and you can hear just the
Oh.
soul sucked out of people. Everyone, ah. You can hear it, and it's so funny,
God.
especially because at that point they probably already knew that Final Fantasy VII remake was a thing, but they were just like, yeah, fuck you guys. Anyway, I remember when that happened. I bought Final Fantasy VII remastered, and I was gonna play it because I'm like, I've heard so many things about this game. I know the Final Fantasy purists will say that it's not the best Final Fantasy game, but it's by the general public, right? One of the most iconic games ever. And I bought it
Indeed.
and I played maybe an hour of it. I'm like, this game is way
It's
too
old.
old.
Yeah.
I can't I don't have a connection to this, so it's just a bad game for me as somebody who like doesn't. It's just an old game, man. It looks like shit. You walk two steps and you're in a random encounter. I'm like, man, I can't
You
do
can't
this one.
Pokemon this shit.
Sorry,
Yeah, I feel
guys.
you.
I was like, and I think they had like a little like, oh, graphics are a little updated mode. I remember something like that, but it's a PS1 game, man. Like,
Yeah. Now it's just a clear disc instead of a blue disc.
yeah, it's funny that literally the PS1 era is the one era in games where, especially where you try to do like the 3D effects and stuff, where some shit's just unplayable. That's why I
Yeah.
appreciate all the remakes that we're getting now, because PS2 era, cool. Maybe some you could do some upgrades, but PS2 era games, you can play them now and they look fine. And anything from
Mhm.
there forward, or anything before PS1 era, right? Like if you have like Super Nintendo, all that looks great, runs great,
Yeah, it's
feels
simple
great.
enough to where it still feels contemporary.
Yeah, the introduction of 3D graphics was brutal, man. Like if you go back to those games, it's tough. I think
Mhm.
like Super Mario 64 is one of the few games where you're like, yeah, this aged
Even I
beautifully.
didn't like that because even you can still feel on the
Yeah,
joystick the, like, 5 directions.
definitely. You
It's
can feel
like,
it, but
"Oh, no, this
but it
doesn't feel
holds
right."
up. You can play it. It's like, okay, it
I could
has
play it, but it's like, do I want to?
fair.
No, but I'll let other folks enjoy it.
Once again, I have a connection to Super Mario 64, so maybe it's just my nostalgia of it, right? So anyway, never played it, and then finally Final Fantasy VII Remake gets announced. It's winning all the goddamn awards. It's getting 10 out of 10s across the board. People are gushing about this goddamn game, and I'm like, all right, I'll bite the bullet. I remember I played like maybe like 3 hours of it or so, dropped it for a while, like didn't go back into it for a hot minute. And then one day it hit me. I was like, oh yeah, I want to keep playing this game, see what's up. Obsessed with it. I love Final Fantasy VII Remake. I beat it. When I beat it, without getting into spoilers, although it's an old game, so but the end
Everyone dies.
but the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake was the first time that I felt like one of those goofy ass motherfucking Kingdom Hearts fans. The writer of Final Fantasy VII Remake's the same writer of Kingdom Hearts. I forget his name right now.
Oh, Tetsuno Nomura?
Yeah, Nomura, same guy.
Wow, I pulled that out my ass. Good
Nice
for
job,
me.
good one. Nomura, same dude, and they do a lot of changes to the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and they make it extremely meta and extremely galaxy brain shit, and it's goofy as hell. You're like, oh yeah, it's Kingdom Hearts, and I was like, oh, this is what y'all fucking nerds love so much. I get it because this is cool, right? Because I was understanding, and I needed some context of the first game, and I'm like, oh, okay. Basically, it's wild. It's wild.
It, as I understand it, once again, spoilers for Final Fantasy VII Remake,
Yeah, we'll
but as I
we'll
understand
spoil it.
it,
Yes.
yeah, they effectively make the remake also canon within the same lore of the
Yeah.
original.
Basically,
Okay.
throughout the game, the one difference, and the game, it's like a one to one basically remake with additions of the first section of Final Fantasy VII, right? When you're in Midgard. But there was one thing that was different, and when the demos were out and when people first started playing it, they were like, "Oh, that's odd." There were like these spirits or whatever that would like go after Cloud, and he'd be like, "What's going on?" And then basically at like right at the end of the game, right before you do the last fight against Sephiroth, literally the game and the characters tell you, oh, we're about to go into this like weird portal thing. Everything that happens after this is new. This isn't part of the original story. It's a branching path. And even
Huh.
and then Sephiroth kind of and again, I'm forgetting the details. So, please correct me in the comments.
Don't sue
But
us, fans.
yeah, don't get mad at me. I already have the Kingdom Hearts fans mad at me. It basically Sephiroth kind of tells you that that he's already seen the first game, and it's like a new version of Sephiroth that changed the
And
future,
aware of
so
all the
and is
oh
aware of
god.
everything that happened in the first game, and it changed the future so that it's now a new thing. And this one character, so nothing that happens in the original Final Fantasy game might happen in the new ones. Like Aerith dies in Final Fantasy VII, right? That's what everybody knows. Might not anymore, right? Because they even reference that during that. And it's like a galaxy brain of like, yeah, jumping through dimensions of the games, and it's wild. It's
Jesus
wild.
Christ.
Like, look it up and just watch the cutscenes out of context. It's the same feeling you'll get when you see Kingdom Hearts shit. It's like, what are they talking about?
Let Sephiroth cook. Yeah, I get you.
100%. But all this to say is now I'm into Final Fantasy. Like, it's not like I've played every other game, right? But whenever Final Fantasy VII Rebirth comes out, I'm in. I'm excited for fantasy. Excuse me, for Final Fantasy 16. I'm stoked for that game.
Hmm,
So I'm
wow.
in.
I'll say this, Final Fantasy is one of those franchises where it is intimidating in the way of me not being jealous of it. I have never once or there's maybe 2 times in my entire life where I've been like, "Oh, that Final Fantasy train, maybe I'll shop on it." Those times are Final Fantasy VII Remake, of course,
So
because
good,
just
dude.
all the praise when they finally gave it away on PlayStation Plus and I had it, it's like, well, the barrier's been broken. I own this,
Yeah.
so might as well. Still haven't played it yet because I'm me, but it's there. It's on the plate. And then Final Fantasy Dissidia, the PSP fighting game.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I played
Sure.
back when I had nothing to play, I would just download a bunch of demos and play them forever. Played the demo for that way more than a young man should on PSP. And yeah, I just was really always interested in those games. And to this day, I really do. I think those games are really fun fighting games. Now the fact is, Final Fantasy 16 is about to come out. Yes, it looks cool. Yes, it has Devil May Cry 5 looking combat. That speaks to my appeal. I'm probably not gonna play it just because it's like Knights of the Round Table-y. I'm not a fantasy person, and the
Yeah.
fact that they're trying to go more fantasy about it, it's like, I think I'm okay. But yeah, the entire franchise overall has just not been like nothing about that franchise has spoken to me. Like maybe a little bit of Final Fantasy 15, but like even that, still feel like I missed it, and I don't feel an urge to go back to it. Final Fantasy 7 remake, that's my biggest chance to like get into it because everyone talks it up like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Great game.
And if it is, then, great. I'm sure I will play it at some point,
It's a
but
great game
yeah.
with one real fucking bad section in it. That's the one thing I'll tell you. But by the time you get to that section, you'll already be invested. So it's not like it's a 10-hour thing, but it's like 3 hours of that game are just a total like deviation. I'm talking about the train bit for anybody who's played it, and I'm sure you'll
Uh,
agree. Because like the action is like here and like the stakes are here, and then you take like this weird side route on like a haunted train yard, and it just drags on for way too long, or you're like, can I get back to the fucking cool thing that's happening? But once you get out of it, it's great. I'll say I'm not a DLC person. I've never been. It's rare that a game hooks me with DLC. Like it has to be a game that I really really enjoy. The Yuffie DLC, awesome. I loved it, and it also continues the weird
Hmm.
Galaxy Brain shit. So highly recommend.
Hmm. Okay. Huh. Yeah. It's Final Fantasy VII remake is on the table. I
Yeah,
will try
yeah,
that at
you
some
gotta play
point,
that.
but there's not a God's chance in hell. I don't know if that's the phrase. That I'm playing Final Fantasy 1 or 2 or
Oh
3 or 4 or
oh no,
5
no,
or
no, no, no,
6.
no, 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 no,
7 remake,
no,
sure,
no, no,
but I'm not playing 8 or 9 or
no, no,
10
no, no.
or 11 or 12 or 13 or
Same boat.
14. Hell no. Like, God bless you
What talk
all for your
about?
Final
You don't
Fantasy
want to put
14s.
1,000 hours into that? Come on, man.
I'm not playing an MMO ever.
Yeah,
Like, I'm
same.
already annoyed that, like, they've managed to get me into all these live service games that are just 1,000 hours just for, like, skins and run fun, random, frivolous things. Like, at this point, okay, this isn't a universal thing, but if I'm playing a game, I want it to be an experience that I can, like, take away with me, and I love Fortnite as much as the next guy. I pay for Fortnite fucking what's the monthly thing? Fortnite Crew.
Yes.
I pay for that every month. I feel guilty when I go a whole week or a whole month, God forbid, and all I've played is a Fortnite, a Call of
Same.
Duty, even a Knockout
Same,
City.
dude.
It's like it's just a time suck. So yeah, I gotta play something with some meat on its bones, you know. Um, Now here's one franchise I think is funny that none of us think of this as like a oh man, it's hard. Like no, none of us think of this franchise as one that you get into. Like no one thinks, oh, I need to go back and play the first one, so on and so forth, because everyone understands each of these are self-contained. Um, but I kind of want to go back and play the ones I haven't played. The Call of Duty franchise.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. No one ever says, "Oh man, Call of Duty is such an intimidating franchise." Because number one, at this point, everyone has played a Call of Duty.
Right.
Like
It's
they
ubiquitous.
might not have exactly. You might not have beaten a campaign, but you've played a match. So everyone kind of has an understanding culturally of what that game is. But for me, I started playing Call of Duty with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2.
Me too.
And I've since gone back. I've played World at War. I've played the original Call of Duty 4. I have what 2, 3, and the original one that I still have never played. I want to go back and play those just so I can say I've played all of them. And I still haven't touched the campaign for Modern Warfare 2, the new one.
Me neither.
So yeah, I want to go back and just play all of them. Just really just because I'm so close to completion that I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck it, why not? So yeah, but yeah, people talk about that franchise a lot, but it's never talked about in the same way we're talking about a Final Fantasy, where Final Fantasy has what really, if you include spin-offs and such, more than 20 games
Yeah.
in that franchise, where Call of Duty is pushing a similar number, but we just don't think of it in that way.
Yeah, I think the annualized aspect of it and the fact that the campaign tends to take a back seat, right? Like it's not most people
Hmm.
don't buy Call of Duty for the campaign. Now, they'll play the campaign, right? And they'll enjoy the campaign. And there's some really great campaigns in there. Like I have very fond memories of the Modern Warfare 2 campaign, of the
Hmm.
Black Ops 2 or 3 campaign, one of the two. I think 2, yeah, Black Ops 2
Black
campaign, I
Ops 2.
remember.
Black Ops 3 was fucking hot garbage.
Yeah, Black Ops 3 was. Oh yeah, that's the one where there are robots and shit. That sucked. That one
Yeah,
sucked.
where the whole campaign's a fucking dream.
I stopped playing that one. Yeah, I stopped playing that campaign. Black Ops 2, I have great memories with. Modern Warfare 2, I've beaten
Yeah.
countless times.
Infinite
And then
Warfare is the best one. I still say that.
never played it. I always hear that,
Oh
and
my
I'm like, man,
bro.
that's one of the Call of Duties I skipped. I had even when I was in high school, I I felt similarly to what you're saying, where if the only game I played was Modern Warfare, I mean Call of Duty, I would feel like guilty because I wasn't playing other games that I wanted to spend my time with. So usually I would be on this cycle where I would for let's say the Call of Duty that came this year, I would play it and I would spend months playing with my friends, but I wouldn't be interested in next year's. So I was
Mhm.
on like
Balance
on like a
out.
bi yearly cycle of Call of Duty games, and Infinite Warfare is one of those that I just never got into. And I always hear now people say that that campaign's incredible. I'm like, dang, missed that one.
Yeah, it's one I understand a lot of people missed it because that was the one where it's like, "Oh, it's jetpacks again," and everyone was mad, so it's like the
Yeah,
most downvoted YouTube video of all time or
I
something
remember.
crazy similar to that. But it didn't deserve it. That game was great. I like the multiplayer too, but I understand I'm a sicko, but the campaign itself was, like, good on any metric,
Mhm.
not just mine. So, like, yeah, people should go back and try that one. But yeah, that's just another franchise where it's like, I imagine that's intimidating to people who it's not even that it's intimidating people who wanna try it out, it's more so that it's like, people don't think of Call of Duty as its individual installments, they think of it as just the
It
monolith.
is a
They think of
franchise, yeah.
Mhm.
Especially
They think of it
Warzone
in
now has
totality.
muddled it so much, right? Where, like, generations kinda don't matter as much anymore.
Yeah. Like, when you say, "Hey, Imma play Call of Duty," if you if you play video games and understand what Call of Duty is, when someone says, "I play Call of Duty," you understand that as whatever the most recent
Yeah,
iteration, the most popular one is, you don't think of that as, "Oh, I enjoy the franchise, the yearly releases or whatever."
totally.
So, yeah, that's just one that I found funny. Um, there's a lot of other games. I'll say this, most of the Nintendo's anything I have never gotten into, because I grew up as a Sony kid. I grew up, with the PlayStation 2s, the PSPs, the PS3s, what have you. Kirby I got into hardcore because of Forgotten Land. Shout out to the Kirby plush that Gabby got me. It's here in
Shout
in
out.
studio. In studio, in my fucking room.
The studio.
Um,
Come on.
yeah, there you go. Studio apartment. Nah, I live in a basement. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I got into Kirby based off of one game, but like Metroid Prime, as I talked about earlier, just came out. I want to get into the Metroid Prime series because just that just seems like my type of thing. Like first person sci-fi,
Yeah.
weird alien creatures. Like
See,
that just seems like my speed.
I appreciate that you're bringing out Nintendo because my Nintendo history is so funny to me. Because my first console ever was a Nintendo 64, and I had a Game Boy before that. I was a Nintendo kid through and through until the Wii U generation. I skipped the Wii U generation, like many people did.
Yeah, everyone did.
But the thing that's funny to me, the GameCube was like my shit. Like the GameCube is one of my favorite consoles ever. Some of my favorite games ever are
Big
from the GameCube. But I
big
lived in
dice
Venezuela.
twirler.
I didn't have all this money to like play all these games, right? So I have like weird touchstones to Nintendo franchises. Like Metroid Prime, I love, but I've only played Metroid Prime 2. I know
You
nothing
only
of the
played the
first
Echo.
game. I only played Echoes. I know nothing of the first game, but I love the second
Mm.
one, and I really want to play remastered. Whenever I have $40 scraping around, I'm for sure gonna play that one. For 2D Metroid, for example, the only 2D Metroid game I had ever played was Metroid Fusion,
Oh
which is
wow.
like the least liked
That
one,
is so
right?
obscure.
But that's
Yeah.
the one that I played, and it wasn't until recently where I played Super Metroid for the first time on Nintendo Switch Online, and I loved it. Like I got it. I understand why people call that a masterpiece that still holds up to this day. And then later on, I played Metroid Zero Mission. I emulated on the Steam Deck. So yeah, I feel you. There's the great thing about having skipped the Wii U generation is that most of the Wii U games are on the Switch now. So I've been able to catch up.
There you go. Amen to that. Yeah, Metroid is I mean, we talked about the first person games, but like none of the side scrollers, with maybe the exception of Metroid Dread, because I played the demo for Metroid Dread,
I want to
and
play that.
the f- yeah, it was fun, but it was also like the fact that there's always a little bit of a disconnect whenever I'm playing a side scroller and I can only move with the stick. And
Mm,
not only is it moving with the stick an issue, because a lot of these games I use to stick, but it's the fact that it feels third persony. Like it feels like the granularity of the movement with the stick
yeah,
is that of a third person game or that of a 3D game, but it's 2D. And it fucks me up in the head a little bit. And then also just you're having to aim while walking and everything as well.
it's an odd
It
one.
just doesn't yeah, it's a weird one because Metroid has never been like a dual stick shooter. You're not like aiming with fine degree. It's just like where you're moving, you hold the stick in that direction as well to shoot. So it's like doesn't feel great. So perhaps I don't know if I'm ever gonna touch any of the 2D Metroids because those just seem like a little bit too much for
I
me.
will say, legitimately, I felt the same way, and I wanted to give Super Metroid a chance on the Switch through online. I get why people say it. Like I've always heard people say that it, like I said, it holds up to this day. It's a masterpiece. I agree, man. Like Super Metroid, one of the best games I've played, no doubt. It's fucking incredible, and I beat it 2 years ago, and I
Mm.
fell in love with it, and I didn't have that strong of a connection to Metroid. You wanna? I think what I'm about to say right now
Uh-oh.
is the most Emmett thing I'll ever say in my life.
Or you about to be play Axiom Verge first.
This is an Emmett Watkins ass comment. Okay,
Here we go.
we're talking about
Ready for
Nintendo
it.
franchises and how I have weird connections to a lot of Nintendo franchises. Right?
Mm,
I love
Devil's Third.
no. No, that's listen. I'm not that. That's too Emmett for me, man.
Yeah.
I love the Star Fox series. Right? That's a normal thing to
Oh,
say. I love Star
okay.
Fox. I love
That's
Star
reasonable.
Fox. Yeah,
Sure. It's coming next.
because Star Fox Adventures is one of my favorite games ever.
Wow, that is an M&S comment. Yes. Good God. So that's the on foot one where he's running around as well, right?
Let me
Okay.
tell you the shock Mario had once he grew up and started going on the internet and finding out that people hated Star Fox Adventures. Listen, I get
Oh
it. It's not
God.
the game you guys wanted. It shouldn't have had Star Fox attached to it. That game is so fucking good, dude. It's incredible. Like people don't
Mm,
people don't give that game enough credit. It's so fucking good. It's incredible and I get it. You wanted a Star Fox game and the thing that that game does that sucks for Star Fox fans is that it starts with really good like airship combat sort of thing, like dogfighting. That's how the game starts and then there's none of it again until the end. So I get it. But it's such a fucking good game, man. People don't give that game credit. It's awesome.
never even thought about trying out Star Fox Adventures. Maybe I'll add that to the deck one day.
Also, shout out to
Instead of
Star
me getting
Fox
rid
Assault, the game that came out after that on the GameCube. That was more of a traditional game, Star Fox game, but then they also had like tank combat, and people really hated that. But I loved it growing up. It had a dope ass multiplayer mode. I would play with my friends, and if you don't like it, you suck.
I gotta be honest. Why hasn't Nintendo made more Star Fox games? That just seems like a friend. Not that it's gonna print money, but you have just a
I
sci-fi
know
action
they keep
franchise,
fucking it up,
Nintendo.
man. And they're so cool,
Yeah,
dude. Like the R Wing is one of the coolest ships ever. It's so fucking cool. The way it
yeah.
like
Well, maybe they
turns and
just
shit.
are winging it. Nah, I don't like that. I don't like that. I'm gonna wish. I'm just gonna retract that statement. We're just gonna move on with our lives, and we're gonna act like I never said anything. Another franchise that is that is hard to get into. Um, yeah, I mean, Zelda's another one for me too, where
Oh,
I had no childhood legacy with Zelda. It's to the point where like this is something I say all the time, but like when people ask, "Hey, what's your favorite Zelda game?" I'm always the idiot who's like, "Darksiders 2."
I hate you so much.
Yeah, fair enough. I hate me too. But that's not true. But yeah, no, I'm always the person who's like sliding in with some other game that isn't a Zelda game. I've played Breath of the Wild. I played it for quite a long time. I think I put a good 15, maybe even more hours into it, and it's fine. It's just absolutely fine. Like for me, it's like a solid 7 out of 10 maybe. Not a bad game by any means, but the ways people talk about Breath of the Wild
Mm.
as if it's this completely new original thing, it's like Breath of the Wild is just an amalgamation of a lot of other open world concepts over the last couple years. Like it feels like people like Breath of the Wild so much because they didn't play Far Cry. Or they
Fair.
didn't play like all these other games. Like there's so many things in like contemporary open world games that when Zelda does it, it's like, oh fuck, it's new, it's exciting, and it's like, well, they have their own spin on it, yes, but is that spin enough to make it actually new? Like people are freaking out about. So perhaps I have a slight chip on my shoulder when it comes to Breath of the Wild, but all the older Zeldas, like the one that I'm very interested in, once they make a port of this to Switch, I will be all over this. Wind Waker.
Yeah, dude. Wind Waker's fucking rules.
Yeah, I've
Yes.
always thought, even
Can't
from a
wait for
very
that
young
to
age,
fucking drop
yeah,
someday.
yeah. Oh god. At this point, if everyone's saying, "Oh man, it should be announced in the lead up to Tears of the Kingdom." No, they
No,
still haven't said anything. So
no, no.
at this point, it's probably just GameCube games are on Nintendo Switch Online, and
Here's the
that's gonna
thing.
piss me off
Yeah.
so much.
Here's the thing. we know for a fact Nintendo will sit on a game for months and months because we've known that Metroid Prime,
Mhm.
Metroid Prime Remastered. We've known that it's a thing for months, and they just sit on it. They're just like, we'll release it when we feel like it.
Yeah, same thing for Advance Wars, like, that game was done for a year,
Oh yeah, they're
and
like,
now it's just gonna come out later.
we'll take our time."
Yeah,
Uh,
it's fucking lame.
for another hot take, Zelda wise. First of all, I disagree with everything you said about Breath of the Wild. Love that game, but unrelated. Talking about games that are underrated, right? And games that get too much shit. Twilight Princess is one of, if not the best, non Breath of the Wild Zelda game. And people do
Mm.
not give that game credit. Yes, the opening is brutal, man. It's bad. I agree. The tutorial takes forever. It's like a 6 hour long fucking thing before you
Oh
actually get
god,
to. It's weird because
that's
like
the Wii effect.
yeah, exactly, dude. Because the game really opens up once you're able to transform between Link and Wolf Link at any point. But to get to that, it takes forever. Way too long. And there's these annoying ass sections where you gotta hunt these like bees and whatever. And it takes way too
Aw,
long to get there. But
not the
once you
bees into the
do,
trap.
that the dungeon design is awesome. That game is incredible. Another game that gets a lot of hate. The one on the DS that what's it called? That's like a
Ooh,
Wind
Spirit
Waker.
Tracks?
No, the one before Spirit Tracks, the one that's on the boat.
Minish Cap.
No, that's a
No.
Game Boy. Fuck, I'm
Fuck.
blanking on it.
Zelda DS, Imma type it.
Yeah. Anyway, that game is basically like Wind Waker, but it's on the DS, and you control it by using the stylus. But that game's cool as
Phantom
hell.
Hourglass.
Oh my god, Phantom Hourglass! You go back to the
Yeah.
Phantom to the Hourglass Temple and shit. That game rules. I played it when I was in elementary school or middle school or whatever. I don't know how it's called here. Great game.
I respect it. I was playing Def Junior on PSP.
Nice. This is my last franchise. I'll say this is the last franchise I'll say that
Lay it on me.
I've started, and it's one of those where I'm like, especially now because the ball is rolling so hard on this franchise, and I just kind of want to jump in, but I don't know at the same time. Resident Evil. Never played a Resident Evil game.
Oh! Oh, this is the perfect one. Go ahead and say your piece because I have things to say.
So Resident Evil, I never played any of them. I got Resident Evil 7 through PlayStation Plus and I started it on the VR and I was super digging it and then I never touched it again and I haven't installed still. But then I bought Resident Evil 2 Remake because that game won Game of the Year and shit and people adored it and it looked really fucking cool and I really want to play it and I still really want to play it. But it's gotten to the point now where I'm so like the ball is rolling so hard on Resident Evil right now that I went from like, oh yeah, I should play Resident Evil Remake 2 to like, okay, maybe I should play Resident Evil 7 and then Resident Evil 2 Remake and then Resident Evil 3 Remake and then I should play Resident Evil Village and now Resident Evil 4 Remake is coming out. I'm like, fuck, I missed my
You're
train,
getting
man.
behind. It's moving past you, dude. It's
Yes.
here's the thing. Here's the thing about Resident Evil that I love so much because I have a very weird history with Resident Evil. The first Resident Evil game I ever played was Resident Evil 5.
Nice. Yeah.
So
People love
I'm
that one.
already starting in a weird spot, but on top of that, what are the other Resident Evils I played? Resident Evil Revelations, the DS game that got ported to the consoles.
That's the one that's like in
So
a
I
ship. Is that one?
yeah, the one that's like on a ghost ship or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I played that one. I played Revelations 2. I played like one and a half of the light gun games when they were on
Same,
PlayStation
same.
Move. Yeah. Really? You played some of those?
I don't remember at whose house, but I've played some of those.
Yeah, I played through one of them, and then I played through like part of one through PlayStation Plus. So yeah, I played those. I played Resident Evil 4, and I played Resident Evil 8. So like I've played
Okay.
half the franchise at
Yeah.
this point. And or maybe not half, maybe closer to like 40%. But like I've played enough to call myself a fan of Resident Evil, but at the same time have no experience with Resident Evil 1 or 2 remake or not, 3 remake or not. Um 6 I haven't touched, 7 I haven't finished. And here we are now where I still need to play the DLC for 8 and I'm about to play this remake of 4 where I love Resident Evil because there's so much of it. It's a very I mean, shout out to Noah Caldwell Gervais, video essayist that we've talked about on the show. I've talked about on the show at least
You
before.
have, you have.
He made one of my favorite YouTube videos of all time where he breaks down the entire Resident Evil series and not the entire series, because if he did truly every single spin-off, every single Game Boy Advance game, all that shit, we'd be here forever. But he
Yeah.
spends 7.5 hours breaking down not just Resident Evil 1 through 8, but the
Couldn't you
Revelations games.
couldn't you
Yeah,
beat all of 2 remake in that time?
probably. If not 2 remake, definitely some of these games you could just beat in the length of his video. But he goes on, and I love that video so much because it paints a picture of, yes, the series is long running and it's very prolific, but it's just like they keep trying new and weird things through all these
Mhm.
different spin-offs and alterations where it's like, yes, the mainline games are like the survival horror things. They are the big tentpole set pieces. But I think a reason why I love the franchise so much is because if you go into those side games, it's like, oh, Resident Evil Survivor, where they basically made Left 4 Dead before realizing it should be an action game and not a horror game. Like they got very close to that formula without going the extra 10% that Valve did.
Yeah.
Uh, and just stuff like that. Stuff like, Dead Aim, which was the light gun shooter that they took the light gun out of because Columbine happened right before it released. So it's just a clunky first person cursor on PlayStation 1 at that. So you can imagine.
Yeah.
Just talking about all these weird experiments, and it's like because it's so cool to see all this weird variation in a franchise that at its core is still the same thing it was at the beginning. I really love that. I really think it's cool. And I think it's a great franchise to get into. I'm not going to say it's my Yakuza to kind of loop it back around, but it is definitely a franchise that I like a lot. I want to play more of. I haven't made enough time to play through my copies of, because I own Remake 2, Remake
Yeah.
3. I own pretty much every Resident Evil game I haven't played. So yeah, it's a good one. I want to have more memories with it because it's a great franchise. And even RE4, one of my favorite games of all time. So
Yeah.
I'm a
See,
big
I've
fan
never
of it.
played Resident Evil 4, even though the GameCube is like my era. Resident Evil was just one of those games that I never got into. So yeah, no, I think what I'm gonna do, because I kept being on this path of I was gonna play 7 and then 2 remake. I think I'm gonna say fuck that and just go straight to 2 remake, because I think that's like the pinnacle of the franchise as of right now.
It depends on what you want from the franchise, because the franchise can give you all types of
That's
things. If
true.
you want strictly survival horror, I wanna be scared intensely, yes, Resident Evil 2 is the peak of that for the franchise, as far as I know. But if you want, like, the campy, actiony part of Resident Evil, yes, Resident Evil Remake 3 is gonna deliver that, but also your Resident Evil 6s, your Resident Evil the second half of Resident Evil 4,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
what people don't remember, like, Resident Evil 4 is a great game. The first part is scary. By the second half, it's an action movie.
right.
And it's a great action movie. It's very fun, but like people don't tend to remember that as often. And so I'm very excited for folks like you who have not played Resident Evil 4 who are going to play the remake at some point because that first game still holds up. I played that first game PS3, PS4 generation, and it felt contemporary with the time. So like it still feels really good to go back and play that game. So for people playing a remake, it's like, yeah, they're gonna do things to make a lot of it feel the same, but how how is the first game gonna age? Is it not gonna feel as good because you have that direct comparison of the remake now? I hope that's not the case because that first game is worth playing. There's a reason they ported it to everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think people should try it out. I think people should play it, but I was excited to see what the legacy of that franchise is going to be. And do you think you're going to try and play that first game? I mean, not now. You're probably not going to play it before the next one releases because you got like what
Right.
3 weeks. But yeah, you think you're going to try and play that original at all? Or you think you're just going to do the remake?
I don't know. I think I'm gonna stick to remakes for now, just because it's funny because I feel it Resident Evil is in such an interesting spot right now where they were releasing up in like almost a yearly cadence, right, of remake and new entry, like the first persons, and they were like bouncing back and forth between them. And the thing that's super interesting is 4 is like the turning point where after 4 people didn't like it as much, so everybody's kind of wondering what they're going to do, if they're going to do a 5 remake, if they're going to change up the story in 4 a little bit. That's a thing that I've heard a lot of people talk about. Obviously, I don't know much
Smart.
about the franchise, but it is interesting to have this sort of cadence of, again, we're in this world of remakes. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do, if eventually they catch up to one another or not. And the other thing that's interesting is that there is a Resident Evil 1 remake, right? That does exist, but it's not Not
It's
really.
not the same.
You
It's
know?
it's the same type of game that Resident Evil 1 was instead of being this
Yeah.
third person shooter
It's
now.
not what Resident Evil 2 did, where it took it from, like, a tanky PS1 game to this incredible visual showcase, right? So I've always wondered, are they gonna do a 1 remake at some point, like a remake in the style of 2? Maybe, I don't know.
I'll
It
say
kinda makes
this, if
sense to
they
me as an outsider.
it it makes sense from a marketability standpoint, but for a legacy standpoint, I think it's very important to have a modern iteration of Resident Evil that is still quote unquote original Resident Evil. I
Yeah,
think it's very important to have that for like archival purposes, of course, but just also so you can understand that original vibe and that original feeling of the terror in context of those combat mechanics instead of I think it's important to have some remakes that are not, less of an active translation and more of an active like preservation, so you can see exactly how it was. So I like that idea. I think Resident Evil 1, it's preserved. Like you can play that PS4 port on
totally.
anything, Xbox works, everything. That game's on everything now. Keep it that way. When you say Resident Evil 5 remake, Mario, you don't understand how much I. Here's the thing: it's not that Resident Evil 5 is like one of my favorite games of all time. I miss Sheva Alomar so much. She was in one game, and they said we don't need any more black women in this franchise. Goodbye,
We're done.
and it burns me. It burns my loins that Sheva Alomar has just been dropped from the lore. I've always said I can't tell you how many times I've had an idea for a Resident Evil game. Get Sheva Alomar, who was the co-op partner from Resident Evil 5, and get Billy, the prisoner from like Resident Evil Zero, one of the side games, and put them together, and they're in Terra Grigia, which was the underwater city from Resident Evil Revelations that you don't go to, you just hear about it in lore, and it gets destroyed halfway through the game, and you never see it. Like they have their own Atlantis, and you don't go to it. What the fuck?
Nice.
Set an entire game in there and have those two like doing shit there. That would be
Hey,
the
man,
greatest thing of all
that's a
time.
cool thing as an outsider that you never know what they're gonna do. Because, like, I know that they've done some changes in 2 remake and 3 remake, some new things, some additions, and the rumors is that 4 is gonna have a lot of it of additions and a lot of change. Obviously, we don't know yet, but that's the thing that's interesting is that they get to kind of, like, rewrite history and add things that people would have appreciated and but still keep the core of the original while expanding on it. Because again, I know you like 5, but the general consensus on 5 and 6
Oh yeah,
isn't
everyone
great.
hates 5.
Everyone
Yeah.
hates 5 and everyone hates 6. So maybe they remake them, but they're fucking completely new games. I don't know. It's what are they gonna do after 4, right? Because 4 is the last one that is universally loved. But what happens after that?
Well, even 3 wasn't universally
That's
loved, and
true.
they made a very faithful remake of 3 because the reason the remake of 3 was kind of middling review scores is because the original was, and they
Totally.
stuck true to the original. So, like, I think that they're capable. I think they will do that because at the end of the day, Resident Evil 5 was the most successful Capcom game of all time when it
Yeah.
came out.
Sold like
Um,
gangbusters. Yeah.
it sold a lot. It was right in that era where co-op 360 games were the vibe, and guess who they had the marketing deal with. So yeah, it was good at the time. Yes, history hasn't been kind to it, but I think there's a special nostalgia. I think people in a world in which Wanted Dead isn't going to sell a million copies, and even we go back to Final Fantasy, Stranger in Paradise probably didn't sell a million copies, but we're in that vibe right now where people have nostalgia for the PS3.
Yeah, that's
People are
true.
old enough to like look back to that generation and understand the over the topness, the corniness, the cringiness of that era and have nostalgia for it. I think if you get a Resident Evil 5 that isn't saying because when Resident Evil 5 first came out, people were upset because all that horror survival horror I loved is now this. If you make a remake of 5, there's no concern that the franchise is turning into that. This is just a stop on the station.
That's true.
And
I could see them doing that.
yeah, yeah, so I think if they do a 5 remake, people are gonna be more understanding. But if they do get the 6 and remake that, that's gonna have to be some fucking Final Fantasy 7 remake shit. That's gonna have to be a part 1, 2, 3 or something because that game's 4 different campaigns
Jesus Christ.
all in one.
I didn't know
Or
that.
actually 5 technically, because you unlock Ada Wong after you beat all the other ones. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So that game was expensive at the time. So God only knows what it would be nowadays. But yeah, Final Fantasy is a great franchise. That's it right there. And you should get, or not Final Fantasy. It is a
Resident
great
Evil.
franchise too. But Resident Evil, it's great. So yeah, you should definitely get on that one.
I will. I
I
will.
would I was gonna drop one more here, but I'll just say it very quickly. I was very intimidated in the Dark Souls franchise, all the FromSoft games.
I
I
was
was
gonna
very
say the
intimidated by.
same thing.
Yeah. I know you got into it last year, and that was a big thing for you. I still haven't quite gotten into it fully. Elden Ring, I put in a good 20, 40 hours into it. Love that game a lot, but really, the Surge 2. I always bring up the Surge 2, but that game is what like broke the barrier for me to be like, oh, I can play these games. I can enjoy these games. I enjoy Surge 2 a lot. That's one of my favorite games of all time. And if I can do that one, then yeah, I can come around to a FromSoft game. And I have Sekiro installed. Y'all said Sekiro would be
Sekiro's
good.
great,
Played a couple minutes of it, and I'm like, all right, Sekiro is good. I have to
dude.
play more of it
When
than
you
the hour
get
or two I have.
when you get to that boss fight, the what's his name? I'm blanking on it. You'll know. When you get to that boss
Mm,
fight is when that game really clicks, and fuck me, man. Oh, what a game.
oh
Also,
boy,
Bloodborne, one of the best games ever.
I believe you. I'll believe it even more when it's 60 frames.
Yeah, man. Please, one day. Oh my god.
Sony said fuck you, or actually, FromSoft said fuck you.
They really did. They really did. What are some of your most intimidating gaming franchises? Please let us know in the comments. This has been a lot of fun to do. Emmett, anything else you got to say to the people?
Not too much. As folks know, I mean, this is coming out next week. In a month, I'm going to PAX East,
Hey,
and I'm also, or is it East? No, that's PAX West. No, it is PAX East. Where the fuck is Boston?
East.
No, it's
You got
PAX.
it.
It's PAX East. Okay, I was right. Going there, and then also going to WrestleMania the next week after that. So if you
Nice.
see me at either one, also if you're going to Nintendo World on Wednesday, hit me up. I guess I don't know. We'll be there.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I
Sounds
they
awesome.
might yeah, Gabby really, really wanted to go, so she's like, "Can we go?" And I'm like, "All right." So now we all have tickets and we'll be there. That's the Wednesday
Fuck yeah,
after we
dude.
fly in.
I
So
want to go
yeah.
too. I want to go too.
Oh, it's gonna be a great time. I'm gonna wear PlayStation shit. All right. I might not troll that hard, but we'll see. We'll see. We might wear matching Kirby shirts because she bought
I
one
like
too.
that. I
So
like that. I like that. Everyone, thank you so much for watching and or listening. We'll see you the next episode. Take care.